So next is, tell me something about your hometown.
Well, a little history. I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, but I only lived there 3 weeks, and then my parents moved to Denver, Colorado, where I went through first year high school.
So how's Denver?
Denver is a beautiful place because it's right at the base of the Rocky Mountains, which is great hiking, skiing, exploring. You've got 14,000 foot mountains there.
So what do people do there usually?
Well, I skied. I used to teach skiing out of Denver. We would take the train all the way up to Winter Park, and every Saturday, and I was in a club called the Eskimo Club, and I would work my way up to where I was an instructor, and I wanted to be an instructor because then you got free tow ticket and free train ticket, and that was great. It didn't cost me anything to ski. Then I moved from Colorado to Anchorage, Alaska, which
How is the place?
that was a real shock because your winters are there are days in winter where it's dark all day long, and there are days in summer where the sun never sets, so you have 24-hour sunlight or you have 0-hour sunlight because of its location. Then I moved, then I went in the Marine Corps and went to California, did basic training there, and then I was attached to, signed to the Floating Marine FMF, Fleet Marine Force, and we came over to Okinawa, but mainly set up in Subic Bay because that was during the time that Vietnam was just getting started and Diem was assassinated, the premier, so we went over there to set up perimeter and to train their Marine force, the Vietnamese Marines. But we would then come back to Subic, and that's where I got my first introduction to the Philippines.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing how you've been to a lot of places. So, how are the people? How are they a little similar to each other?
You know, I find every place I've been, I find the people great. Because if I run into a trouble spot with a person, I just don't deal with them anymore. There are enough nice people in the world that it doesn't matter what country you're in, you'll find the nice people.
So I know you've been in contact with the technology nowadays. So how do you think this technology, development technology, can influence our culture, especially the internet?
You know, the Philippines, when I arrived here, there were probably more cell phones. Everybody had a cell phone and everybody was texting. And cell phones in the United States were just coming out, and nobody texted because for the most part nobody knew they had text capability. And the second part, they had all these plans that for voice. But the technology here is growing, and I see more and more. In fact, it would be nice to get some industry in here, high-tech industry in here, because you've got a tremendous workforce and the people are eager to learn. You know, I was in the semiconductor industry for almost 38 years, and when we first started, none of the assemblers or wafer fabricators or the workers knew what a semiconductor was, let alone how to make one. But we taught them, we trained them, and this would be a great training ground to bring in a factory, set up a factory, train the workers. That way you train them the correct way. It isn't like they're bringing in bad habits, because they have no habits in the particular technology.
Have you worked with Filipinos?
Oh yes.
So how are they?
In the semiconductor, I was at a company called Advanced Memory Systems and Stuart Warner Microsystems, and they were one of the first that brought in Filipinos over to America, and we paid standard wages. We found them great workers. In fact, they overworked the standard American person in that position. They were always willing to work overtime because, you know, as typical, the money is going home.
Yeah. So enough of work. Let's go back to food.
Oh, God.
Tell me about your desserts in America. Do you always eat desserts every after meal?
No.
Usually when?
It depends on the person. I'm not a big dessert eater, although my favorite dessert is chocolate cake with whipped cream. But no, they don't always eat desserts. No.
So
Those
are
that do get too fat.
oh, I see. So are most Americans fond of eating desserts or not?
Oh,
Only a
sure,
few? Oh,
sure.
All of
The-
most?
Americans are no different than Filipinos. They love their sweets also. And many times they'll have just a piece of cake later on in the evening, or maybe after lunch, or go out for coffee and cake, or coffee and donuts. And of course, we all have the stereotype policeman in the United States stopping for his coffee break and donut break, right?
Okay. So so far you've been here for 9 years, 8,
I've been here for
many years,
uh, 10 years now.
10 years.
Yeah, going on 11.
So are there any similarities between Filipinos and Americans?
Sure.
So can you
Sure.
cite some?
Uh, they're competitive. Uh, their political system is very similar to the United States, and that might not be a positive statement. Of course, your justice system is similar to the United States, but the people that I know and work with and deal with, they're very similar. You know,
Are
they're
they
good
nice
people.
Good people.
Yeah.
So, except for the American culture, I know you've been to a lot of places. What would be the culture that you like most?
The Philippine culture.
The
That's
Philippine
why I
culture.
stay here,
It's really flattering.
and that's why I stay in Rojas, because I think Rojas is just a great city.
So, can you tell us something about your culture? What is the primary characteristic of your culture that differs from every other culture? The American culture.
You know, it's changing, but when I was there was full employment. So everybody was working, and everybody was spending their money, buying new homes, trying to get their savings going for retirement, just like here in the Philippines for retirement. Very similar culture, except completely different location and a much lower employment rate here, much higher unemployment rate here.
So, what do you think can be the really pride of your culture? One
The
that
American
you,
culture?
Yeah. One that you want the whole world to know.
Its creativity and its ability to manufacture products.
That's what keeps your economy booming. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, is there anything you want to change about your culture?
Other than the politics?
You can mention, yeah, maybe other than the politics, because you mentioned it.
You know, I'm an old guy here, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time growing up. It was a much easier time. It was a much more family-oriented time. It was very much like the Philippines, very family-oriented. The father worked, and the mother stayed home and raised the children. We didn't get in, there was no, at least in Denver, there were no drugs, there were no gangs. It was a good time to grow up. After the 60s and the hippie generation, and then the greedy generation, America has changed, and it's probably not as nice a place as it used to be. Doesn't mean it can't be, but at the moment I would suspect you've got tremendous drug problems, tremendous gang problems, tremendous corruption problems. Something has to happen, and I don't know what.